Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're going to give about a minute to 2 minutes just to make sure everybody has time to get into the webinar before we begin. We hope everyone's having a good day. Hope the weather is nice where everybody is today as well.
Indeed.
Give it about one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started for today. Just want to have plenty of time for everybody to log in and be able to see the very beginning of the presentation today. Well, again, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's BBB Learning Lab webinar, Online Reviews 101, featuring review solutions at Third Coast Interactive. I am Jenny Tukeski. I am the Programming and Communications Manager here for the Better Business Bureau Midwest Plains. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping tips for you. Just to let you know, today's webinar is being recorded, and with that, we're recording to be able to have it for future viewing purposes, not only for other viewers, but then also for you as well, to be able to use it as a resource tool to go back and look at things in the future when you need to implement something new and different. So with that, in 24 to 48 hours, we will send a follow-up email to you with not only a link to the webinar, but also the presentation materials that are being discussed today. Also, if you have any questions, please go ahead and leave them in the chat, and we will make sure that we get to all the questions by the end of the presentation today. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Online reviews play a critical role in shaping your business's reputation, influence potential customers' purchasing decisions, and helping your company stand out from the competition. Positive reviews build trust, improve your online visibility, and strengthen your brand's credibility. Today, you'll learn why online reviews matter, how to confidently encourage customers to share their experiences, and the best practices for responding not only to the positive reviews, but also the negative reviews too. Whether you're looking to strengthen your customer relationships, enhance your reputation, or grow your business, you'll leave with practical strategies you can implement right away. We are excited to have with us today Myra Bollingul, the Executive Vice President for Review Solutions at Third Coast Interactive. Myra oversees the company's overall strategies and initiatives, working closely with global brands, collaborating with national businesses and business owners, and managing the Third Coast Interactive partnership with the Better Business Bureau. So with that, welcome Myra, and it is all yours.
Thank you, Jenny. And again, thank you for everybody for attending today's webinar. On the webinar with me today is also my colleague, Emily Elliott, and she will take care of you if you drop in any questions in the chat, as well as, uh, address any questions you might have throughout the webinar. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, I always open up with why online reviews are important. Of course, everybody who is attending or signed up for today's webinar, I'm assuming has some idea that online reviews can impact their business. And this is just a couple of ways in how that is actually the case, right? So you can see here, and this is from Bright Local's local consumer survey this year, 2026. So essentially, 97% of consumers read online reviews. And so for all intents and purposes, that's 100%, right? So everybody, potential customers, even current customers are reading reviews online. And almost all of those people have made a purchasing decision after reading a positive review. And so that kind of gives you an idea of how important reviews can be if they're impacting purchasing decisions in that way. Okay. In addition to that, of course, recency reviews are very important. Almost three-quarters of consumers not only care about you having positive reviews online, but they care when the reviews were written. And in fact, they only care about reviews written within the past 3 months. And so, if you think about that, in as I go through this presentation, I encourage you to think about your own actions and opinions as a consumer, right? Not just as somebody who owns a business or who works for a business, but also as a customer of other businesses. And it makes sense, right, that when you read reviews, you look at when they were written. And a lot of times you give more weight to reviews that are more recent. That makes sense to me. In fact, one of the things I do when I look at reviews is one of the ways I sort them is by newest first. Because I assume, as most people assume, that customers who had an experience with the business recently are going to have a more similar experience to me than someone who maybe went to a business or patronized a business a year or so ago. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And then, of course, star rating is, of course, very important. Only 30, excuse me, almost a third of consumers will only consider a business with a 4.5 average star rating or greater. So that means thinking about your own businesses now, if you have a review rating that's less than that, you could be losing over 30% of potential customers that won't even take a look at your business unless your rating was higher. And nearly half of those same customers won't actually use a business with fewer than 20 reviews. And so, taking all that together, obviously, it's important to have reviews. Positive reviews can directly cause a customer to make a purchasing decision immediately after. However, these reviews not only need to be recent, overall, you have to have a very good average star rating, and that star rating has to be based on 20 reviews or more. Again, think about your own behavior as a customer. I know me personally, if I am considering maybe if I'm down to two different businesses, one has a perfect 5-star rating and the other one maybe has like a 4.7, but the 5-star rating is only based on 2 reviews and the 4.7 is based on like 40 reviews. I'm probably going to go with a 4.7 rating that's slower, but it's based on more feedback rather than the perfect 5-star rating that's only based on 2 reviews, just because those reviews could be a fluke, right? So just something to keep in mind. And of course, on top of that, obviously it's important to get reviews, but it's just as important to respond to them. And so nearly all or 89% of customers expect businesses to respond to their reviews. And by that, I mean all your reviews, not just your negative reviews, not just your positive reviews. And half of the customers are unlikely to use a business that's using a generic response. And so I'm sure you've also come across that where it's clear they have like 2 or 3 responses that they use for every single review. So they have like one basic response for the positive reviews and one basic response for the negative reviews, and that's what they use. A lot of businesses now are also using AI to generate those responses, and this is to show that customers don't necessarily like when those responses look generated and aren't specific or varied. Okay. Something that has come up recently and has basically become more and more of a factor, especially when it comes to online research, is AI overviews. And an AI overview is essentially, I'm sure you've encountered it. So if you're using a search engine to have any kind of query online, a lot of times it's going to default to an AI overview. Either it's going to be at the very top of the search results or it's going to replace the search results and you have to kind of exit out of that AI overview to see the rest of the listings. And so, and I'm sure that you've encountered that, and that's becoming more common with people doing any kind of research online. And so, just based on the research within the past year and a half, reviews and AI overviews, reviews can absolutely impact these AI overviews. And in fact, 34.5% of these AI overview responses when responding to a query cited at least one review platform in that overview. And 80% of consumers relied just solely on AI summaries at least 40% of the time. I know that's kind of a confusing stat, but essentially, the majority of consumers relied just on the AI summaries, meaning they didn't go outside of that summary or that overview. They stayed on that summary 40% of the time. So that's just something to keep in mind as you start to think about your own online reputation and what your reviews can mean, is that these reviews can also impact these AI summaries. Now, the good news is 96% of consumers are absolutely open to writing a review for business. So knowing how important reviews are to businesses like yours, that's, obviously that's very important that customers actually want to write those reviews. And this is where the BBB comes in too. So consumers actually trust BBB reviews the most. Now, that doesn't mean that, the majority of reviews go on BBB. In fact, I think you can assume, and you'd be correct, that the vast majority of reviews are Google reviews. And so, they kind of dominate that online review market. However, everything else being equal, a consumer is still more likely to trust a BBB review versus a Google review or a review written or left on any other review site. And so, what's nice about that is, taking the previous stats into account, this means that maybe you don't need as many BBB reviews to have the impact as Google reviews. I think the fact that Google reviews kind of dominate the market, everybody kind of expects a lot of Google reviews, right? So in this instance, you can think of it as maybe 30 Google reviews can have the same impact as even just a handful of BBB reviews. Or if you have at least 20 BBB reviews, that's the most powerful statement of all. And that's more powerful than having the same number of Google reviews or the same number of reviews on another platform. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Another thing when it comes to AI search is AI search relies a lot on third-party authority. So in general, search engines have their own algorithms, and I won't go into too much detail on that. But in this case, when you think about AI overviews and AI search, they rely a lot on third-party sources. And one of the things they rely on is third-party authority. And of course, BBB accreditation confers trust from a trusted third party. So BBB is considered a very authoritative third party source, and that accreditation confers additional trust on top of having those BBB reviews. So it's why your BBB has partnered with us, the Review Solution, to provide accredited businesses like yours with an app to help with these BBB customer reviews. And so that takes everything that we've just talked about and lump them all together, right? So reviews are important. BBB reviews are very trusted. And now on top of that, AI overview in search relies a lot, not just on these third-party reviews, but on authoritative sources like Better Business Bureau to help convey that same trust when they generate these search summaries for customers to read. Any questions on any of that so far? I'll stop here before moving forward. Okay, and as a reminder, again, if you have any questions at any time throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Emily, who is on the webinar with me, will try to get to them as she can. Again, I will stop periodically for questions, but you do not have to wait for one of those pauses to drop a question in the chat if you have a question that you don't want to forget. Okay, and so this is how the app works, and it's very simple, straightforward. Essentially, it's an app that is business facing. So you, the business, and those on your team, you're going to be the ones to download the app. And on the app, this is what it looks like when you open it up. And so you can see here at the top, there's going to be a space, and that's going to be your company name. So in this case, the name of the company is Third Coast Interactive because that's our company name. And then a blank field for your customer name and a blank field for the customer's mobile number. And so all you have to do is literally enter your customer's name and their mobile number and hit send. And in fact, there's actually a feature on the app, if you don't mind giving the app access to your contacts on your phone, where you can pull in your contacts directly into the app. So you're not even having to manually type out your customer's whole name or their phone number. You just start typing the first few letters of their name, and then a drop-down menu will appear that shows you all of the, contacts in your address book that matches that criteria, and then you can select the customer that you want to send the review request to. And again, it's not necessary to enable this feature to use the app. So if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. However, it is one more thing that makes it a lot easier because then you don't have to worry about mistyping your customer's name or their cell phone number, and it cuts down on that time because again, it pulls from your contacts directly. Okay. Now, once you put in the customer's name and phone number, they're going to receive that text message instantly. And so this is what that text is going to look like. So right now you can see, Moira, thank you for choosing. That's got my first name, comma, thank you for choosing. And it's going to have the company name, in this case, Third Coast Interactive. And would you be so kind as to leave us a review? And that's it. That's the whole process to this point. So far you've put in your customer's name and phone number and hit send. And your customer has received a text message with a link to leave you a review on bbb.org. And basically all that's left for them to do is click that link to leave a BBB review for your business. And so it removes a lot of steps, not just on your side, but also on the customer side, because from the customer's perspective, all they have to do is agree to receive that text message, click the link in the text when they do get it, and then write the review. So they're not having to look for your BBB profile, figure out where on the profile, they can leave a review. And essentially, once they click that link, it takes them to where they have to go, and all they have to do is write the review and fill in the contact information, essentially. Okay, questions on that? Great. So again, why would someone use the app, right? So why you, the accredited business, why should you use this app that's available to you with your accreditation? And you can see here, it's very quick and easy. So as I just showed you, there's not a lot for you or the customer to do. So all you have to do is enter the customer name and mobile number and hit send. All your customer has to do is click the link in that text message and write the review. Easy peasy, okay? In this case, it does primarily, it does use text and not email, but in this case, text still get a better open rate and response rate than emails. And so it can contribute to that increased, essentially, conversion. Pre-verified reviews. So in this case, any review that's left using this process, the customer does not have to independently verify their contact information. So if you try to leave a review on bbb.org now as a customer, it's going to ask you to create like a username or an email address with a password. And then in addition to that, you may have to independently verify any contact information. So have to validate your email address or something like that as a customer. If you request a review through the app and your customer leaves your review through the app, they don't have to do any of that. So really all that they actually need to do is leave the review. There's nothing else that's going to be required of them. Okay. The fourth thing is the app does allow you to track all the review requests that you're sending out. So anybody within your company that's using the app to request reviews, they'll see that. You can see every single review request that's being sent out and the results of those requests. Questions on that? Great question. So the question that just came in is, does the text come from the actual person's phone number who is sending the review link, or is a generic phone number that it comes from? And again, that's a great question. And the answer is the text actually comes from a verified 888 number. And so the number that we use, like Emily says, it comes from a mass number. Well, it's actually a verified toll-free number. So we have actually verified this number with Twilio, and Twilio has essentially cleared the number with the major cell phone carriers. And what that means is, the number is less likely to be marked as spam, because we basically had to put in an application to say, hey, like, we're a legitimate company. We're not going to scam people with this number. I know that that's like a big issue nowadays is people using text messages to send out spam. And so we actually use a verified toll-free number. We have multiple just in case we need to use more than one. Um, and the number, while it's not monitored in the sense that your customer can't respond to it or call it. Actually, they can call it technically, but um, if they do try to respond to that number, it lets them know that the number is unmonitored and to please contact the company that actually sent the text message. So it protects the privacy of the person using the app. So whoever that employee is, it's not going to come from their actual cell phone number, but the 888 number is a verified number with the cell phone carrier. So it's not, so it's less likely to be flagged as spam. Great question. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. So we talked about why it's important to have reviews and a tool that you now have available to you as an accredited business to collect these reviews. And so, how are you going to actually implement and use the tool to your advantage? And here are just some quick tips that, we've been working with businesses on their reviews since 2012. And so, these are just some tips that I've compiled along the way that have proven to be fairly effective. The first thing that I always recommend is whenever you can, ask for the review at the point of service. That's going to be when your customer is the happiest with your service or your product. And that's also when you're going to be top of mind. Basically, the further away you get from that interaction or that final interaction with your customer, the less likely they are to submit a review online of their own accord, right? I mean, if you think about experiences that you had with other businesses today or yesterday versus experiences you had 2 weeks ago, obviously the experiences that you had more recently are going to be the ones that stand out. And you're probably, not going to write a review from a business that you patronized a month ago if you haven't written them a review already, right? Of course, the exception to that is if a customer had a unusually negative experience with the business, which is why, again, we emphasize asking at the point of service because especially your happier customers are going to be the most likely to write you a review at that time. And that's really where the app comes in because the app, of course, because it's on your mobile device, makes it really easy to ask for reviews pretty much anytime. Okay. And then the middle column talks about one of the ways that you can implement asking for that review at the point of service. Okay. And I always recommend this, especially to any kind of contractor type services, but you can also adapt this approach as you need to. And so let's say you just finished cleaning a customer's carpets. Okay. Finish cleaning the carpets. You did a great job. Customer seems happy. Right before you leave, before you wrap everything up, just let them know, hey, online reviews have become really important to businesses like mine. Would you mind leaving us a review? And at that point, they either say yes or no. And this is where you can use the app to send them a quick review request by texting their cell phone using the app. And a lot of times they will already have their phone on them. And so there's a couple of benefits of doing it in person as well. And so, of course, send them a text using the app. And the nice part is, again, because you're in person and they most likely do have their cell phone with them, you can, number one, confirm that they did receive the text. So if they didn't, you can make sure that you entered the phone number correctly. And number two, make sure that they're able to click that link in the text message. So those are the two things that you can verify and is a benefit of doing this in person while you're face to face with them. And then this is the important part. Once you confirm that they've received the text message and they're able to click on that link, this is where you walk away. Okay. And I recommend saying something like, hey, while you're doing that, I want to make sure everything looks good one last time. And the reason you do this is so it's not awkward, right? You don't want to stand there while your customer is leaving you a review. It's not great for you. It's not great for the customer. They might feel pressure to leave a certain type of review, that you don't, that's not necessarily honest, right? And it's not, you don't feel like you're staring at them while they're leaving a review for your business. And then, of course, this does give you the opportunity to double and triple check everything one last time to make sure you didn't leave any of your equipment behind, everything looks good like you want it to, you're not leaving a mess, all of that. So take a few minutes and actually double and triple check everything. You might as well, right? While you have the time. And ideally, by the time you come back to your customer, they would have already written you a review and submitted it. So giving them the few minutes to do that while you walk away is a win-win for everybody. You're not standing there awkwardly while they do it, but it does give them the opportunity to go ahead and submit the review. And so in this scenario, before you even leave the job site, a review has already been submitted for your business. So again, you can adapt this approach however you need to. If you have a particular type of business and you'd like strategies or ideas on how to incorporate something like this to ask for reviews, feel free to contact us after the webinar and we can work with you directly on how to come up with good strategies that fit your business and based on how you interact with your customers. Okay. Another thing that's very important is make sure to make asking for reviews a part of your overall process. Success is always going to come from the top down. You can give your employees the app, but if you don't really have a process of how they should use it or when they should use it, they may or may not use it, right? So I think it's going to be the easiest for everybody to just incorporate it as part of their daily routine. No different than having, clock in, clock out procedures, or maybe a procedure for how to submit their invoices or, their timesheets. If you have a established process for when they're supposed to ask for a review and how they're supposed to do it, it takes the burden off of them because all they have to do is follow your procedure, and then it makes it easier for you to hold them accountable. Okay? Now, before I move on any further, I do want to point out that you never, ever, ever want to offer money discounts or gifts to your customers in exchange for writing reviews. And you especially don't want to make it explicit. I do know that there are quite a few businesses out there that make it very clear, hey, write us a review, you get a $50 off coupon, or, your next service is free, your next oil change free. I see that all the time, and it's very heavily advertised. But just because you see that doesn't mean you should do it. There's a few different reasons why. Number one, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, does not like that. And they've actually levied fines and other types of things against businesses that are notorious for essentially what they see as a bribe when it comes to exchanging something for reviews. They essentially don't want anything that makes customers and businesses distrust the overall digital marketplace, right? So if you think that every review written online for a business was in exchange for a reward, then all of a sudden you don't trust any reviews, right? And so the Federal Trade Commission definitely does not want that. The other thing is it's against BBB's guidelines as well. So BBB does not want you offering anything in exchange for reviews, whether the reviews are on BBB or on a different review site, because that's still your policy as a business, and it goes against their guidelines. And then it's also against the terms of service for a lot of these major review sites. So even though a lot of the businesses look like they're advertising freely that they're doing that, if they were to get caught by Google, by Yelp, by any of these other review sites, best case scenario is the reviews get deleted. Worst case scenario is actually get banned off the platform, or they have a note on their profile, which I've seen on Yelp, where it says, hey, this business actually, has exchanged something for reviews. So just keep that in mind. So essentially warning potential customers that you're handing out bribes for reviews. So long story short, don't offer anything in exchange for reviews. There is a slight exception. If you wanted to, let's say, offer like a product or a service that you're considering making part of your regular services or products that you offer, and you want to offer that for free in exchange for honest feedback, you can certainly do that. However, if you are doing that, your customers have to explicitly state that they got that product or service for free in exchange for their honest feedback. And so they have to state that at the beginning of every review. And that's the only way that doesn't violate these standards. Questions on that? Okay. Some other best practices, that you can kind of apply generically. Basically, give everybody in your company the ability to request reviews. Essentially, anybody that has any kind of interaction with the current customer, potential customer should have the ability to request reviews, because anybody that has these types of interactions can affect a customer's perception of your business. Okay. And then another thing is put one person or even department in charge of reviews. And all that means is it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and hire someone that just handles reviews for your business, although you might, depending on the volume that you're doing. However, all that means is everybody knows whose responsibility it is to manage the reviews, whether it's someone who's doing something else on top of managing reviews, or there's a whole department that's in charge of that. But this makes it easier for everyone to know. Let's say if you get a review, whose responsibility is it to respond? Whose responsibility is it to follow up? Whose responsibility is it to track the review requests going out? And who's following up with the individual customers in case they don't respond to a review request. All of that is just a lot easier if there's one person or department that know, and everyone knows it's their responsibility to do that. Okay. In addition to that, 3 and 4 are kind of linked. So hold your employees accountable and incentivize your employees. I talked about it's hard to hold your employees accountable if reviews haven't become a part of your process, because then there's not really a procedure for them to follow, right? And so I think, again, for you to be able to hold them accountable for getting reviews, there has to be some sort of system in place for them that they should be following, and that makes it easy for them. However, you can also incentivize them. You can't incentivize your customers, of course, but there's nothing that says you can't reward your employees for getting reviews. And this is where the app really shines in holding them accountable and incentivizing them, because again, you can track all the review requests that are being sent using the app. So you can see, number one, if everybody's requesting reviews like they're supposed to. So you can look and see, okay, well, Sally sent out 10 reviews in the last month, but John only sent out 1, but they saw the same number of customers. So maybe you need to speak to John or discuss with John like the best ways to ask for reviews if they're not comfortable doing that or using the app, right? And then the other thing too is, with the app and the dashboard that comes with it, you can see the result of all the different review requests. And so maybe there's one employee that consistently gets more positive reviews than anyone else, even though everybody's sending out roughly the same number of requests. And in this case, you can reward that person, right? I think, there's a lot of different ways that you can reward employees. I've seen it where for every 5-star review an employee got, or for every review request they send out, maybe they get a raffle ticket. The person with the most reviews at the end of the week maybe gets a free lunch. Quarterly, you can have prizes. I mean, there's just all these kinds of ways to reward your employees. And also, because of that, it might give you the dashboard might give you insight into employee performance that you didn't otherwise have before, because now you can see, okay, which of your employees are consistently getting great feedback from their customers. Okay. And then, of course, have an effective follow-up strategy. And this is where having one person or department in charge of reviews really comes in, because you can develop, okay, do we follow up with people who didn't leave a review, but we requested a review from? How quickly are we responding to reviews? Who's responding to them? What do we say to positive, negative, and neutral reviews? Any questions on that?
Myra, just real quick, in regards to having your employees, and say you have a company of 25 or even 100 employees, and you want every employee to have the app, does it cost extra for each employee?
That is a great question, Jenny. And the answer is it does not. So with the app, when I talked about giving everybody the ability to request reviews that has any kind of customer interaction, You can have an unlimited number of device keys that you assign so that everybody in your company has the ability to request these reviews, and it is not anything extra. So it's going to be completely free with your app as long as you're accredited. Great. Okay. And to add to that, it could be 15, 20, 100 more employees if you needed to do that, depending on how many different people you have requesting these reviews. And it's not going to cost you anything extra regardless. Great. Okay. So the next section talks about responding to reviews. So it's a good segue because we just talked about having an effective follow-up strategy, and that includes having a good strategy for responding to the reviews that you are getting. Okay, some quick do's and don'ts. By no means an exhaustive list, and some of these might seem really obvious to you. But I encourage you to actually start reading some of the responses businesses have to reviews, and then maybe you'll realize some of these are not as obvious as one would like them to be, right? And so like I was saying previously, respond to all of your reviews, not just the negative ones, respond to the positive and the neutral ones as well. The neutral ones can be like really tricky. And by neutral, I just mean like a 3-star review. So it's not quite a negative, but it's not a glowing review. Sometimes those can be pretty hard to respond to. But I recommend definitely responding to all of them as quickly as you can. And as I mentioned in one of the first slides, try to vary and customize your responses as much as you can, that's allowed without revealing a lot of personal information because, again, customers don't like those generic responses. Be courteous and polite at all times, regardless of what the review says that you're responding to. Keep in mind, everybody's reading your responses, not just the person who left a review. And of course, maybe if you are nice enough in the review response, that could be your opportunity to bring back a disgruntled customer, especially if you didn't even know that they were upset until you read the review. And so, depending on how you respond to them online and otherwise, that might be your chance to not just bring them back and change their mind as a customer, but also have them update the review. I've seen that multiple times where a customer originally left a less than glowing review, and because of the way that the company responded, the customer went back and updated their review and said, hey, this was originally negative, but I really appreciated the way they responded, so I'm changing it to 4 or 5 stars, what have you. So that can also be very, very effective. Sometimes even more effective than a regular positive review is having someone update their negative review to a positive one based on how you respond. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Again, always apologize. That doesn't necessarily mean accepting wrongdoing. It could mean something just acknowledging your customer's frustration. That can go a long way, especially if they had a less than stellar experience. Of course, especially it's not something that is typical of your business, right? And so you want them to know that. And so you want to address and acknowledge their frustration and let them know, hey, this is not typical of customers that patronize my business. And I do apologize that you had this type of experience with us. It can go a long way. On the flip side of that, definitely do not get emotional or defensive. Once again, I know that it's easier said than done, but also everybody is reading your response. One of the things I recommend is if you really have a hard time responding professionally to a review, give it a couple of days. Don't respond right away, number one. If you really have to respond, I recommend just writing it down on a piece of paper, just writing out whatever you want to say and then throwing that piece of paper away afterwards. And then you can respond online in a more calm, professional manner. Of course, I had said that you want to respond as quickly as possible, but I'd rather you delay your response by a few days rather than responding ASAP, but the response is unprofessional. And, to add to that, don't make it personal. Don't go into too much detail when you respond. And that goes, of course, even if you're responding to a positive review. You never want to have too many personal details online. Other customers can see that, think it's unprofessional, again, even if it's responding to a positive review. And of course, there's some, industries where you can't include any personal or, details about the customer. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, if you are responding to a negative review, you never want to start debating with a customer online for everybody to read your arguments back and forth, right? So, especially if it's a negative review, always offer to address it outside of the review platform as soon as you can. And of course, never speculate on why your customer is frustrated if they're not clear on the reason. As always, always ask to communicate off the review platform if that's, if you want to find out more information. Okay, questions on that? Great. And so, of course, now that you understand that reviews are important, you now are aware of this tool that you have to help get these BBB reviews, especially since BBB reviews are trusted by customers. And also, AI search likes the BBB as a third-party authority. And now you start getting these reviews, you start responding to them. You can also leverage the reviews that you get online in various ways outside of just having them sit on those review platforms. Okay. One of the things is, again, search rankings. I'll make this quick, but when I talk about search, I talk about SEO, search engine optimization. You kind of balance that now too with like AI summaries and AI search, but the same rules generally apply. Number one, the majority of website traffic still comes from organic search, and organic just means not paid for. So the vast majority of people surfing the internet, doing research online, they still get to websites from not ads. So the majority of people aren't clicking, or the majority of traffic doesn't come from these ads, they come from organic searching. Okay. And third-party reviews carry a lot of weight, not just with, of course, the search engine algorithm, but with the AI search summaries as well, which you'll see. And so you will see a lot of those same reviews and review sites rank highly in the search results or quoted in the search summaries, the AI search summaries. So you put that together and you can get a lot of referral traffic just from having great reviews from these same third-party review sites. And so essentially, you're getting people to click on your website from either organic search listings or the AI search summaries for free. So you're not paying for that additional SEO boost or click boost or traffic to your website, but because you had great reviews on these review sites, the customers gravitate towards your site because they are getting referred from those third-party reviews. Okay. So in addition to that, of course, as always, so the way AI search and overviews work is they rely on experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, right? So those are the types of things that they call on. They want to make sure that the summaries that they are producing rely on experience, quote unquote, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And this is all from like third-party sources. So they like to rely on third-party sources that they view as having met these criteria. Of course, BBB is going to be all of these, right? So experience has been around a long time. It's considered an expert in terms of, you know, in its space of accrediting businesses, authoritativeness because it ranks very highly and search engines tend to trust it, and trustworthiness, of course, because it is a trusted third-party source. And so all that being said, because AI relies a lot on these things, it makes online ratings and reviews even more prominent because ratings and reviews, of course, from the eyes of an AI, a lot of authoritativeness, a lot of trustworthiness, a lot of expertise. AI models analyze things like review frequency, which we talked about, the freshness of these reviews, so how recent they are, and the sentiment. And so that's what we talked about, how often you're getting the reviews, how recently you're getting them. So are they a year old? Are they 3 weeks old? Are they a month old? And are they positive or negative? And so they use all three of those things to assess if you have a credible business. So if they see that you're getting a lot of reviews frequently and that they're, recent, and that they're positive, then that increases your business's credibility in their eyes. The third thing is, not only can you just ask Google best plumber, in Omaha, the way that AI works now is customers can actually ask pretty specific questions from the AI itself. So not they can say something like, okay, the best plumber that works on this type of piping, right? Or the best plumber that works on houses older than 30 years old, let's just say. I'm just making those things up. And so in this case, it's in your best interest to have more descriptive reviews from your customers. So as opposed to them just saying, yeah, this is a great business, I'll use them again, say something like, hey, this was the best business I could have used for my house, which has this type of pipes and is, from the 1970s and this and that and the other. And so essentially, the more descriptive and the more information in the review, the AI search summaries will not just take the ratings, but also the actual keywords used in those reviews. And then if someone's asking a question that matches the review keywords, they'll come back with your business as one of the answers, right? If that all makes sense. So it's an additional layer to just having a 5-star reviews and okay, this business was great. If the more details are in the review, which again, the happier your customer, the more detailed the reviews are probably going to be. The more detailed our reviews, AI will take those specific details and phrases and use them in their answers as well. Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Other things you could do. You can display your reviews on your website, repost them on your social media profiles, print them out on collateral, brochures, billboards, wraps, things like that. You can even collect testimonials directly onto your website and publish them. And so these are all the different ways that you can actually utilize your reviews, again, outside of them just sitting on those individual review sites. As a caveat, just make sure that depending on the review site that you're pulling these reviews from, that their terms of service allow you to reproduce those reviews, and a lot of times they do. And or if you have a testimonial on your site, make sure that you have that customer's permission to publish that testimonial. And so a lot of the things that I talk about essentially comes down to how can reviews really bolster your business. And so it's hard to definitively measure ROI from reviews. But the best way to do it is to evaluate where you are today. So your current review snapshot, as I like to call it. Take a look at your reviews, see where you are on the different sites, how many reviews you have, what your rating is, the most recent review that you have. In fact, you can take a literal screenshot of your search results to see your various ratings and how many reviews you have on the different review sites for your business. Okay. And then date that with today's date and, start implementing some of the strategies we discussed, including using that reviews app. And then from there, you can start to evaluate how those reviews, as you start getting more reviews, are impacting your business. So Google Search Console, that's something that whoever manages your website or is the website administrator should have access to. And all that means is they can analyze which queries are leading people to your website. And so we talked a little bit about that and see, okay, what are people Googling? What are they searching for that's causing them to get on my website? So that's an interesting way to see if your clicks are going up from certain referral sources, for instance. So are you getting more referrals from different review sites, right? Are you getting a lot more referrals from BBB since you started getting a lot of BBB reviews? So that's a really good way of tracking website traffic and their sources. Another thing is Google Business Profile metrics. In addition to that, I know that your BBB profile has similar metrics as well. And so you can also see, okay, has the number of people viewing your Google Business Profile and any of your other review sites increased? Are you getting more clicks on your website from your Google Business Profile? Are you getting more people to call your phone number? Are you getting more people to ask for directions to your business? Again, a really great way to track if the increasing reviews is having an impact on how many more people are contacting your business or trying to find out more about you. And then the third thing that you could do is, you know, ask them how you heard about us. So that's already something I know a lot of businesses are doing. In this case, you can see, has the number of people that are coming to you because of your online search results increased? So how did you hear about us? Oh, I went to you because you looked great online. Oh, I went to you because you had a really great review rating, or versus word of mouth or other ways that you're getting recommendations, right? Okay. Really quickly, everything we've talked about up until this point has been free to you as an accredited business. There is an upgrade to the free app. Essentially, it does the exact same thing as what we talked about, but it just has additional features. And so, in addition to BBB, you can request reviews for review sites in addition to BBB. You can monitor all your reviews in one place. And so you're able to take more control of your online reputation with customization features. If this is something you're interested in, you can definitely contact my team after the webinar. We can talk to you more about this. The bottom line is reviews can make you a better business. Okay. So the patterns in your negative reviews can maybe tell you exactly where you can improve on, and it might not be the thing that you think about. Positive feedback is going to reinforce what you're doing well, your most popular services, your most popular products. And as we talked about earlier, even with the review dashboard, maybe you're the employees that are performing the best or have the best reputation with your customers. And then neutral reviews, we talked about how tricky those can be, but actually, they can reveal the easiest areas to improve, right? So it's like the low hanging fruit. It's a lot easier to go from 3 stars to 5 stars than from 1 star to 5 stars. And so really pay attention to your kind of meh reviews, because it might be something that you can change today that'll make a huge difference. Okay. So if you're an accredited business and you want to get started with the BBB Reviews app, you can log into your BBB business account or contact your local BBB rep. And if you're watching this webinar, you're not currently accredited and you would like more information on accreditation, please contact your local BBB office. Okay. And this is our information. So yourcustomerreviews.com, that's the website for the app. It's going to be a lot of the information that I covered in terms of how the app works. And you can get instructions if you want to, you know, remember how to use it and all of that. That's going to be on that website. This is our 888 number, 888-649-6140. Feel free to call that if you have any questions, or even not just about the app, but anything that we talked about on today's webinar. And you can also email our support team, support@thereviewsolution.com. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn it over to Jenny.
Thanks, Myra. I just had a few questions for you. We talked a little bit about AI and how it's impacting reviews and everything. With that, are there any specific trends you see that are shaping the future for online reviews and reputation management in general?
Wow, okay. That's a great question. I mean, we could get as detailed or essentially what I will say is what was important before is essentially more important now than ever. Because AI can get really, really detailed in what you can ask it and how it responds. My one advice is the more content, the more detailed it is, the fresher it is, the better, right? And so I know it's a lot to put on a business, but it's, you know, those 5 star reviews that don't have any content is not going to be as impactful as the really detailed reviews that really go into why your business was so great. And so in that case, you don't necessarily want to like prompt your customers when they write you a review, but you do want to encourage them to leave as much detail as possible because that is where everything is going. Again, it's in addition to, yes, okay, they have a 5 star rating and or they have a 4.9 rating, let's say, and they have a lot of reviews, but if all the reviews are saying great, would use again, highly recommend, and they're not very detailed, then the AI is going to be less likely to take that into account, and they like very specific phrases. So I would say that if you're a business, there's a couple of things that you do really well. I would make sure to focus on that. Um, for instance, like just a local example, bakery in my town specializes in a very specific type of cake. And so all their reviews mention that cake. And so if you search, hey, who makes the best tres leches cake in town, that bakery is going to come up because all the reviews mention that cake. So beyond them just being a great bakery and having good pastries, they excel in that one particular area, and all the reviews mention that. So I would say specificity is going to be huge in all the different ways that you can get that kind of detail from your customers would be helpful to you moving forward as a business.
Great. And then just in general, what's one simple action every business owner can take today and start to improve this week within their online reputation?
I mean, honestly, just download the app. If you just send one review request after this webinar to a customer that you've seen recently, there's a good chance that you're going to get a review from that. And so if you can download the app after this webinar, I would recommend doing that. Another thing I would actually do even before you do that is look at your business, just Google your business or do a search on your business right now. Even as I'm talking, just type it in and take a screenshot of what you see, because that'll tell you, okay, where you were today. And you'll know easily, okay, did my reviews increase? You don't have to guess, you'll know. When I sent out those review requests, did that help my review rating? And so I guess it's a combination of knowing where they are right this very second and then downloading the app and start to send out those review requests so that they can, there's something satisfying too about seeing that progress, right? Because they can see, okay, they went from one review, so now they have 5 reviews, so now they have 10 reviews, and continue to monitor that. So yes, take a screenshot today, but in 2 weeks, take another screenshot. And then you can kind of analyze how you've improved just in that short 2 week time span.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, those are some great questions, Jenny. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap it up real quick, on what we have is our business newsletter. With this, if you're not already signed up for, we always encourage business owners to get signed up for our newsletter. It comes out on a monthly basis, and it lets you know about exclusive accredited business information that we have going on, about the new scams or scam alerts, about the local events that we have going on, like the Learning Lab webinars that we have, but then also industry insights as well. So if you haven't, please go ahead and get signed up for that. We would like to thank Myra and Emily both for taking time out of your guys' busy schedule, and just teaching us more about reviews and walking us through the importance of not only responding to the positive and negative reviews, but also to why it's important to ask for the customers for their reviews and what it all actually means. So thank you for that. And also always thank you for your partnership with the BBB. Everyone else, we greatly appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedules to join us, and hope that with the information that Myra discussed today, you are able to implement it and walk away learning something new about reviews and taking that last piece of information she just talked about, of taking that snapshot, searching your own company and seeing how reviews can impact you from today versus a month from now. So hope everyone is able to do that and see the great impact it can make for you and your customers. We greatly appreciate everyone. Again, we will send that follow-up email out to you within 24 to 48 hours with the presentation and all the materials. So thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.